Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next World Series talk, the power of regenerative agriculture. To feed a growing population, simply sustaining Earth's natural resources will not be enough, and regenerative agriculture has emerged as a promising solution to build resilient ecosystems and communities. We'll explore a unique partnership between General Mills and ecdysis Foundation to support and resource farmers through innovative and new regenerative programs. Mary Jane Melendez is the Chief Sustainability and Social Impact Officer of General Mills and the President of General Mills Foundation. John Lundgren is the Director of ecdysis Foundation and the CEO for Blue Dasher Farm. And now I'll turn it over to you, Mary Jane.
Thank you, Dawn, for that introduction. We depend on thriving ecosystems and farming communities for our food. Today, many critical challenges threaten their future. The world is losing farmable topsoil at an unsustainable rate. Globally, about 33% of Earth's soils are already degraded, and that's projected to only increase to more than 90% by 2050. At General Mills, our purpose is to make food the world loves and needs. 2 years ago, we announced a commitment to advance regenerative agriculture across 1 million acres of farmland, which represents about 25% of our raw material sourcing footprint in North America. So, Dr. Lundgren, you've done a lot of research on regenerative agriculture and the role of insects specifically. How important are they in an agro-ecosystem?
Well, what a great question, and one that's kind of really pertinent right now. I think a lot of people have been talking about the insect apocalypse, haven't they? But a lot of times we don't understand what that means. Insects are great, not just because they're species out there, but because they do things. And so we really need these organisms within our ecosystem and within our farmland too. So for every one pest of insects that's out there, or one pest species of insect, there's actually 1,700 species of insects that are doing things for us. We cannot live without these things. So. But we're losing them, and we're losing them at a really alarming rate right now. You had mentioned the statistic on how quickly soil is degrading. At the current rate, we're losing 10% of species every decade. And so when the world's topsoil is gone, so will most life on Earth be gone. And now is the time to fix it. We don't have a lot of extra time. There's a sense of urgency right now.
And it is frightening to think about that, especially when you think about the critical role that pollinators play in our food system. I mean, I think it's, 1/3 of all of the food that we eat is in thanks to a pollinator.
Yeah.
So no, the sense of urgency, I feel like is just really accelerating today. So you specifically have spent a lot of time on the farms that are part of our regenerative agriculture pilot program. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about the outcomes that you are seeing on farm and what you're hearing farmers say as they are on this journey.
Well, we'd like to focus on the problems, don't we? And biodiversity loss and soil loss. And it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in that. But what's really exciting to me is that there's so much hope right now. The farmers that are approaching agriculture and their own farms within this regenerative context are absolutely the solution to all of these problems. And the solution is so exciting because as a result of this, the farmers end up profiting and becoming more resilient. And so it's really a win-win situation. I mean, we can use our farms as a solution for all of these planetary scale problems. What a wonderful outcome. So what are the farmers seeing? What are we seeing as scientists? Within 1 year, we end up seeing dramatic increases in biodiversity, in life on these farms. We end up seeing improvements in plant diversity and richness of species out there, biomass of plant material. And when you get plants into the habitat, and this is not necessarily just crops, but other things that these farmers are integrating in with their crops, every other group of organisms ends up scaling directly with this. So you see improvements in soil microbial communities. You see inverts. You see birds that start to things that as a scientist, I mean, I've been studying bugs for a long, long time, and I'll see things that I've never seen before on these farms. As a result, even in the first, second, third year of these studies. So that's really, really exciting. It gives me a lot of hope.
And Don, I wonder if you can talk about a little bit, like specifically, what have you seen as you've been out there on farms and have seen firsthand the difference that these regenerative agriculture practices are driving? What are some of those examples? I remember one farmer talking about, I think, stacked biodiversity, and it might have been something around, there was an ant on top of a caterpillar on top, and it was just fascinating to hear some of those stories.
Yeah, so we're not just counting bugs, we're also looking at what they're doing out there. And some of the ecosystem services that insects provide end up being things like predation. They eat weed seeds, and so we can use them to shape when and where weeds are a problem on these farms. And so to study the predation, though, on insect pests, we take little caterpillars and we stick a pin through their butts and we put them out into the field, and then we watch and see what kinds of predators end up coming out there to eat them. And it's incredible how fast these predators respond within these regenerative systems, because they're ready to go. The whole system is just primed and ready to go. So we'll put into the farmer's hands, we'll put these caterpillars and we'll send them out into the field and say, okay, go and find your caterpillar after an hour or even half an hour. And they'll come back, they're like kids. It's like, oh my God, I've got ants on my caterpillars. Look at this thing. It's getting devoured. It's like the Serengeti is with the lions and the hyenas on zebras. But it's in their farm. But one thing that we finally see, and this is one of the first times that we've ever correlated this before, is that insects correlate directly with the profitability of the operation. The more insects that you have, the more money you make on your farm.
Interesting. I feel like I should go out and buy some spiders and flies and see if that helps here too.
Yep, always a good idea.
No, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that story and what you're hearing from farmers. I'm also curious. I did a little bit of work when ecdysis Foundation has been a partner for General Mills since the start of our regenerative agriculture pilots, and we've been really grateful for that partnership because we've been on such a learning journey. Can you talk a little bit about the meaning of ecdysis and where that came from? I found it just fascinating the more I was looking up the work of the foundation and the meaning of the word, and hoping you're willing to share a little bit more with our audience today.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So I'm an entomologist by training. I've got my doctorate in entomology, but had to become a lot more, and now we're very much as a scientific staff out here, agroecologists. But our name is an entomological term, and what it means is shedding the old skin, metamorphosis, and that's really where we are right now in our food system. We can't keep doing things the way we've been doing them and survive for much longer, and so we really have to reimagine ourselves and our food system, and really exciting to be a part of that.
Well, that's terrific. And I'm curious about even going back to the learning on some of these regenerative agriculture farms. So at General Mills, we think of them as learning laboratories, and we have learned so much just in the almost 2 years that we have been in this space and learning and wanting to share with the world the outcomes, because this is not an easy transition for so many farmers to make. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what that journey has been like from your perspective in terms of, as farmers are looking to step out of traditional or conventional ways of managing their land, managing those assets of Mother Nature, and what it's like to make that step forward, the struggles, the benefits, and again, from your perspective, how they're starting to think maybe differently about biodiversity as a part of their ecosystem.
Yeah, well, I think to start my answer, I just have to point out what General Mills is trying to accomplish here is by far and away the largest experiment in agroecology that's ever been conducted before. I mean, we're generating bioinventories of our food system on a scale that's never been experienced before. And so the magnitude of what is being accomplished here is really profound and will have lasting effects on science, farming, food production, consumers, health of the human population, enormous. What are we seeing here? Well, number one, at a scale that we're doing this project at, we can influence farmer behavior. Farmers that are trying to make a change to their operation, it's terrifying, right? I mean, I'm a small business owner, right? I understand that people that I care about are depending on me being successful. And it's just the same for these farmers. They cannot lose they have to support their families with this. And so whatever we do has to have support. And that's a really critical component of what this project is doing, is communicating what we're finding and developing that support network of farmers so that they're not alone as they go down this path. Another really critical element of this is that for farmers to make informed decisions, they have to have data. And right now there's a lot of people that are talking. There's a lot of pamphleteers. Oh, regenerative. Nobody's doing the science. Very few are doing the science. And so backing up the education aspects of this project with firm data on a scale that's never been done before, we can make meaningful change to entire food systems. What a powerful thing that is.
I think you hit on one of the most important elements of this whole experiment, and that is the learning and developing the science behind regenerative agriculture. It is such a powerful lever for change across the agricultural supply chain and can really help to maintain a steady supply of high quality, healthy ingredients, while at the same time addressing some really complicated and sometimes overwhelming challenges. When you think about the environmental challenges, the social challenges, the economic challenges, even that farmers are facing. And I think I share your sentiments about the excitement that we also have in, being energized by our early findings in collaboration with you and so many of our farmers, and working to advance the science of regenerative agriculture to better understand the outcomes that we are actually seeing on farms. I think to your point, there's a lot of statements and a lot of messaging out there that isn't backed by data, isn't backed by science. And what we hope to do is to continue to bring those learnings forward to share. We don't need to keep them. It doesn't do any good if we keep them to ourselves, but what a gift to be able to bring that forward, not only to farmers, to give them confidence in what we have learned, and to others who are working in the space who want to make the change, and to step into regenerative agriculture, because it is powerful. And I have to say, I don't know if we expected to see such change in such a short amount of time, but I think Mother Nature is showing her power in a furious way through this, which I think is really remarkable. And what a humbling experience for us to be able to learn from Mother Nature to change and do better going forward. So it really does take everyone to collaborate and accelerate the movement on the ground. And I hope what our brief conversation today did is inspire those who are listening to really step back and say, what is it that they can do? Because we all have a role in this, whether we're a farmer, whether we work for an NGO, whether we are, part of the science making this movement happen, or even if we're a consumer and making choices in the products that we buy and how those products are made, grown, sourced, produced, and what they're doing for the planet to keep it healthy and resilient for the long term.
Yeah. That's great. Yep, absolutely. This is the future, isn't it?
It sure is. Thank you, Jonathan, for the time today. Great to have you.
Thank you.